And there's the bike going down.
What the hell is that motorcycle she's riding, and why is it not being discussed as a critical component of this crash?
There's usually another sign right next to it that has a motorcycle on it, because that's a dangerous spot for motorcycles to be in.
So I was very wary to post about this crash at all, because I know what it's like whenever I post about when things go wrong, often my fault, and I know the backlash that can come from that. But the nature of this crash is a wobble, where some people, even though wobbles have multiple causes and factors, people often blame the bike. And just an FYI, I didn't want to post this video without Janus, the motorcycle brand, without their okay. They were also wary of the backlash, but we both agreed that in a tricky situation, transparency is usually the best. So I expected that there would be all kinds of very strong opinion from all kinds of the spectrum. But now that there's been enough time for this crash and for all those opinions to be said, I wanted to address them directly so you can hear it all from me. So some things I've been seeing in the comment section or in response videos about this crash has been, do I blame the bike? Why was I riding this at all? And how did I happen to get a crash on 3 different camera angles? So the first thing I want to address is, was the crash investigator paid by Janus? So no, I found that investigator through a police department I work with. He was accredited by ACTAR, which stands for Accreditation Commission for Traffic Accident Reconstructionists. It's an organization of accident reconstructionists, engineers, police officers, educators, and attorneys that met and developed a training criteria for analyzing motorcycle crashes. They're not paid for their analyses, and I wanted to be really careful about the background of whoever I was quoting anytime I talked about this crash, because I'm not an expert. My own analysis of the crash, I'm sure wasn't going to be accurate, so I wanted to get someone who, has training in that. But I know there's still going to be people who disagree despite that background. And his analysis is why I don't blame the bike, but rather multiple factors. And that's why I didn't focus on the bike in the video. Unless I'm an engineer myself and I'm physically inspecting that specific bike, I really don't know. And as far as the main causes of wobbles go, I wanted to focus more on what we, the riders, have control of, especially because Janus has 1200s of these models, the Halcyon 250s, on the road. And until my accident, they were never aware of an issue like this happening. So what was I doing there, and how was it even captured? I was in Indiana at the Janus shop. We were planning on doing a series of videos together. I was gonna film the whole process building a bike, and then I wanted to ride it across the country on Route 66. The man that you saw in the video that pulled over, who was also on a Janus, he's a CEO and founder.
Don't worry about the bike, where were you?
Oh no. But his is a little older, and he's already ridden it across the country and done 2 iron butt saddle sores on it. And I want to go back to the main causes of wobbles, because a lot of comments kind of address each one of those. So I'm not a mechanic, but Janus is bringing in a third-party expert to check over their bike and make sure there isn't something that they can change. This may have been a freak occurrence, or I was on a lemon, or just a storm of events. But if it isn't, if it is a bike issue, safety recalls, problems with bikes, even with larger manufacturers, does happen. There just isn't usually a YouTuber already filming a video on 3 different camera angles when things go wrong. So Harley police touring models in the early 2000s were confirmed to have a wobble in testing by the California Highway Patrol. And from 2017 to 2024, 82,000 Harley Softails due to a faulty rear shock adjuster mounting tab that could break, contact the rear tire, and cause a crash. By the way, I'm going to link to all these sources in the description. Yamaha recalled around 22,000 bikes around 2015 to 2017 in their FJ09, FZ09, and XSR 900 due to, let me read this, loose lower handlebar holders from poor thread locking, risking loss of control. Just last year, Kawasaki recalled almost 4,000 bikes, the 2024 Ninja 500 and Z500, for a faulty clutch release shaft. And as far as me not having the proper riding skills,
And it might have even been the first time she's been on the bike, I don't know.
This is correct. This was my first time on this bike. I had been riding it for a total of maybe about half an hour before this happened. And despite all my training, I will never claim to be the best rider. I've never been the smartest or fastest learner. That's why I study and train so much in everything I do. Because I hope that with discipline, I can compensate for what I feel like I lack in other areas. But I also never specifically studied death wobbles or knew what to do if I was ever caught in one until this happened. So I won't argue that point. As far as another common cause of wobbles being road conditions.
Now you see this type of concrete in California? I hate that stuff. What can happen is that it starts to sway. You start to sway a little bit.
I didn't know this until recently, but among researchers, it's actually very known that vertical grooves are dangerous for motorcyclists. That's why in some states it's required by law to have a sign warning motorcyclists specifically for grooved roads.
And if you don't believe me, there are plenty of other videos of Janus owners taking Januses across the country, over thousands of miles, reviewing their bike, including Janus's own media guy riding one 1,000 miles to Sturgis. And then there's also this video from a Janus owner making his own response to some of the backlash Janus has been experiencing. While he's talking about this, he's riding his bike over grooved pavement.
Oh, here's some grooved pavement. Oh my goodness, grooved pavement. So, I'm gonna slow down just in case, right? Because it's grooved and it's janky. Here comes a lip. All right, so that was some janky conditions right there, and the bike remained completely stable.
He's got a pretty cool channel with all different kinds of bikes, including his Janus, so be sure to check out his channel. I'll link to his video down below.
I find it kind of insane that these roads are legal at all without a warning sign. Shout out to MotoJitsu who got Keith Code to give us a quote on what to do if you're ever caught on these vertical grooved roads. He said, just don't ride it straight. So I interpreted that as kind of doing like a slow weave on it. I cover this and I brought in more experts to talk about wobbles, common causes, prevention in another video. And the fourth common cause of accidents, which is high speeds causing engine frame or vibration. Sure, I was going 61 miles an hour, top speed of the bike, which I'd hit just fine multiple times that day. And sure, maybe 61 isn't that fast, but it was top speed of that bike. And maybe going top speed on a new bike to me isn't the best practices early on. At the end of the day, bikes are made by people, ridden by people, on roads made by people, and people don't do everything perfectly. But the point is that we learn and adapt, and how we ride them can affect just how dangerous each one is. These bikes are unique. They're not sport touring motorcycles, so maybe riding them like a conventional sport touring bike could be like me taking my Harley Electroglide across the country on the Trans-America Trail. Actually, that sounds pretty interesting. But not what the bike is made for. Even if this crash had been worse for me, I would hate to see people hating on anything or anyone because of my videos. I hope that we remember that behind that bike I was on are people. A person painting those details on the tank, a person bending those handlebars, a person putting that engine in the bike. I would hate for my rare experience to scare people from building or riding custom or uniquely built bikes, or put all these rules in place that we can't ride or build something like this. And I want to be able to ride something like this, or even these, and this. To me, problems rarely mean stop, cancel, but instead just, okay, pause. What can we learn from this? Learning all the factors that contribute to my wobble and knowing what Janus is doing behind the scenes, working to make sure to see if there's anything that can be improved in their bike. That's why I still plan on going back and riding their bike. It'll just be important to remember that this is not a conventional bike, and not riding it like it is important. If you ever get caught in a wobble, I brought in some experts to tell us what we can do so you don't end up like I did in this video right over here.